I stood in my bathrobe, shaking, as my son perched on the edge of my bed, his gaze fixed on me. The stillness that lingered between us was more than just uncomfortable. It was perilous. Just moments before, he had posed a question I never imagined would come from my own child. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, the storyteller on the Adult Women's Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos, not even in my most extreme or fantastical imaginings. Mom, what would it be like if my first experience was with you? My heart thudded against my ribs. Heat flooded my cheeks while something deeper stirred within me, a tangled mix of maternal guilt and long-buried yearning that had lingered for years. The air was filled with the scent of lavender oil mingling with the remnants of stale wine. My fingers danced restlessly as I gripped the edge of the blanket. He appeared delicate, yet exuded confidence. I remained silent, yet as I pulled the blanket aside, I realized my answer was already given, and everything would change from that moment on. I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who have been supporting this channel. To all my loyal viewers, you are the essence of this community. Welcome to all the new faces tuning in for the first time. I sincerely hope you consider subscribing if you haven't already. That small button is the lifeblood that sustains this channel. If this story resonates with you, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share the video. I'm eager to know your perspective, your insights, your reality. Let's return to where we started. Allow me to present the true essence of our identity. Cynthia here. At 58 years of age, I reside in Boulder, Colorado. I am a freelance copy editor working from home. Life came to a standstill after the divorce. My former husband, Gerald, departed more than 10 years ago and wed a woman who is a decade younger. I chose not to remarry. I haven't been in a serious relationship since then. Daniel, my son, has turned 20. He was always a kind-hearted boy, defensive, delicate, somewhat reserved for his years, yet brimming with kindness. He had just come back home from college for the summer break. A shift had occurred within him. He had expanded not only in stature, but also in substance. His voice had a richer depth. His words carried greater purpose. And when he looked at me at times, I couldn't shake the feeling that his gaze held a moment too long. Initially, I convinced myself that it was just my imagination. I attributed it to feelings of isolation, or perhaps the wine I had begun to enjoy more frequently each evening. As the days passed, I started to observe how he would sit near me, his fingers lingering against mine for longer than necessary. His compliments were delivered with thoughtful pauses. His embraces were more intense. And then arrived that night. We had just wrapped up a movie in my bedroom, a tale of love and heartache. I can't even recall the name. Yet I recall how Daniel would steal glances at me from the edge of his vision. The atmosphere was charged, akin to a wire pulled to its limit. I stood up to adjust the fan, and as I leaned forward, I felt his hand softly grasp my wrist. "May I pose a question to you?" he stated. "Absolutely," I responded with a smile, aiming for a laid-back tone. However, the question arose. What would it be like to share my first experience with you? I stood still. I sought to reason, to understand it from another perspective. However, his eyes conveyed no humor. Each breath I inhaled burned like flames. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to cry, to flee. Instead, I chose to sit beside him. "Daniel, that's not something we can just mention lightly," I remarked. My voice broke. I despised the way I came across as weak. "Yet I have pondered it," he murmured. "I understand my emotions. I aspired to be you." The space started to whirl around. My pulse throbbed in my throat. My instincts clashed with a profound void that had resided in my chest for years. Then he made contact with my hand once more. I remained right there. The morning that followed felt surreal. The summer sun streamed through the blinds, creating distinct patterns on the bedroom floor. I remained motionless, my form draped in a delicate layer, making an effort to avoid glancing at the void next to me. Yet his warmth lingered in the bed, in the air, on my skin. Daniel was already awake. There were sounds coming from the kitchen, the gentle chime of dishes colliding. He was preparing breakfast, as if everything was just fine. It felt as if we had ventured into a territory so profound that there was no turning back for either of us. I propped myself up, clutching the sheet to my chest, my thoughts racing in every possible direction. I wished it were just a dream, a true horror, a dream turned into a nightmare. Yet it had occurred. I allowed it to unfold. I allowed my own son to enter. And to make matters worse, it was something I had truly desired. I entered the kitchen with shaky steps. He turned and smiled, reminiscent of a young lad delighted by his first attempt at making scrambled eggs. "Good morning," he remarked, as if it were just another ordinary day. I nodded, fearful that my voice would reveal the turmoil within me. I took a seat, gazing at the plate he set before me, still untouched. He started with, "Regarding last night." I raised my hand. "Daniel, if you could." "No," he stated, his voice resolute. "I'm aware of my previous statement. I am aware of my actions. I have no regrets about it." Then I raised my gaze to him. His eyes were clear. They were confident, nearly rebellious. "I don't anticipate that you'll share the same feelings, but I truly meant it, Mom. He demonstrates it to you. I have faith in you. Due to the circumstances, I require your presence." The word, need, struck me harder than I anticipated. After Gerald departed, I ceased to feel any form of touch, yearned for, adored. I was simply Cynthia, the mother, the woman who bore the burden in her abdomen and the marks of life on her legs, the woman who gracefully embraced the passage of time as the world pursued eternal youth. And now, my son stands before me, 20 years old, stunning, powerful, and longing for connection. I had handed it over to him, not driven by desire, not from insanity, yet from a desire I had suppressed for ages. When someone finally recognized me again, I found myself unable to refuse. The second night arrived unexpectedly. Like a tempest, we both chose to ignore. We hardly exchanged a single word throughout the entire day. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, as if an unvoiced thought lingered, yearning for the chance to come alive once more. He entered my room shortly after 10 p.m. Cozy beneath the covers, I could see the TV flickering softly in the background. He perched on the bed's edge, keeping his distance from me, simply in a state of anticipation. "I can't sleep," he said. I gulped. "I understand. Is it possible for me to stay here tonight?" I shut my eyes. I ought to have declined. I ought to have kicked him out. I ought to have reached out to someone, anyone. Instead, I drew back the blanket, just a tad. He entered, cautious and deliberate, as if he were crossing the threshold of something revered. This moment was devoid of any words, only hands, lips, dermis, soft murmurs that seemed to carry the weight of devotion rather than allure. He kissed me as if he had spent a lifetime yearning to be near someone who had never listened to him, and I embraced him like someone who had been selected once more. It transcended the physical realm. It was deeply moving, personal, profound, in a manner that frightened me. In the quiet that followed, with his head resting on my chest, I sensed that something had shifted. This was now a deliberate choice. It transformed into something entirely different. I was at a loss for how to put an end to it. The following morning, I awoke to a feeling that was far more troubling than guilt. While strolling down the hallway in my robe, my mind wandering, I caught a glimpse of movement by the front door. There stood Melanie, my closest friend and neighbor, completely still, her expression one of shock. She had just pushed a letter through my mail slot, yet the door was ajar. She had undoubtedly glimpsed something through the slim opening. Perhaps I could be seen in my robe, or the sound of Daniel's voice echoing from behind. Her lips parted, gaze intense. She took a slow step back, and without uttering a single word, she turned and walked away. I remained there, heart racing, immobilized. She was aware, or at the very least, she had her suspicions. In that instant, I realized that what we had created was no longer solely ours. Melanie ceased her calls. The initial outcome was that a quiet consequence shrouded in stillness. She had been my dearest companion for many years. Our morning coffee talks, weekend wine gatherings, and those extended discussions where we explored our lives bit by bit. However, following that morning, after witnessing whatever she believed she witnessed, her calls ceased, her messages ceased. What once were friendly waves exchanged over our driveways have now become icy stares and shut doors. I tried to convince myself it was just paranoia, yet beneath it all, I was aware of the truth. One evening, I found myself at the kitchen table, fixated on my phone, my finger poised above her name. I didn't make any calls. What can I possibly express? Hey, Mel, it's not what you believe. I accidentally allowed my son to crawl into my bed and snuggle up against me. However, it is quite intricate. No words could ever make this forgivable. Within the confines of the house, Daniel was undergoing a transformation. He had grown more daring, increasingly protective, and strangely territorial. He stopped knocking before coming into my room. He stopped seeking approval to make contact with me. It wasn't aggressive, yet there was a deep emotional yearning beneath everything that frightened me. One night, after we had just finished being together, he embraced me more closely than usual. "I adore you," he murmured. I smiled softly, tucking his hair behind his ear. "I adore you as well, my dear." He withdrew. "I truly mean it. I adore you. Just as a man cherishes a woman, my heart desires no one else. This is what I desire. I desire you for eternity." My heart froze. "Daniel, that's not something you should say." "Yet it is indeed true," he asserted, rising with intensity in his gaze. "Do you really believe I'm unaware of my actions? He demonstrates it to you. You stood by my side when everyone else was absent. You provided me with something that no one else was able to offer. Why would I pursue someone I don't know when I have you by my side?" I propped myself up as well, wrapping the sheet snugly around my body, "because I am your mom." He stood, moving back and forth like a trapped creature. "You're saying that at this moment, yet you allowed me to enter. You desired it just as intensely as I did." I admitted my weakness, isolated. I made an error. I ventured into territory I should have stayed far away from. He gazed at me as if I had pierced him with a knife. "What's the big deal? Did you really just use me?" The words struck me with a jolt. "No," I murmured, tears finally cascading down. "However, this is absolutely incorrect. It won't endure. The more we maintain the illusion that it can, the greater the harm we inflict on one another." He looked at me without a word, his jaw tight and his breathing labored. He then turned and exited. Days went by without a sight of him. His room remained secured. His vehicle vanished from the driveway. He drifted in and out like a spectre, steering clear of eye contact, the house, and me. In that stillness, I started to come apart. One night, I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, confronted by a woman I didn't recognize. I appeared more mature, more melancholic, yet I felt exposed, as if every facade I had maintained for years had finally crumbled away. For the first time, I recognized my true self, more than a mother, more than a woman, and definitely not a mistake. Yet there was a person who yearned to experience life once more, no matter the price. I covered that expense, feeling embarrassed, in quietude, amidst the shattered fragments of a connection that can never be restored in the same manner. A few weeks later, Daniel returned home from what I later discovered was a weekend getaway in Aspen with his college friends. He appeared more composed, further away, yet a change had occurred in his gaze. He sat opposite me at the dinner table, his voice soft, yet resolute. He mentioned that he applied for an early transfer, not in the same state. I will be departing prior to the start of the semester. I gave a nod. I concealed the pain, but I nodded anyway. Are you crazy? He inquired. I said no. Gulping down the knot in my throat, I feel a sense of relief. He offered a faint, fractured smile. Same here. In that moment, we both understood it had come to an end. It's more than just the tangible connection. It encompasses the facade we created to endure our individual solitude. At times, the most profound hurts come not from treachery, but from love that lacks clarity, from desiring something intensely to the point of allowing it to flourish in unsuitable conditions. Daniel was not malevolent, I wasn't either. However, our actions went beyond all boundaries. Each principle of the natural world, regarding ethics, regarding motherhood, and still it originated from a source that many can relate to, the urgent desire for recognition, to experience a connection, to experience vitality. I don't anticipate being forgiven, not of this world, not coming from you. However, if you have ever experienced a deep sense of solitude, it's quite simple to grab the hand that's right next to you. Even if it is the one, you should never grasp it in that manner. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.